This is a 6th grade pre-P Chapter 4 test review. Number 1, there are 25 boys and 30 girls going on the 6th grade field trip. What is the ratio of girls to boys written as a fraction in simplest form? All right, so with ratios, I need to make sure that my words and my numbers all match up. So since it says girls to boys, that tells me that girls goes on top and boys goes on bottom. Excuse me. All right, since I have 30 girls, the 30 is going to go on top, and 25 boys, the 25 is going to go on bottom. So that's a fraction, but it's not simplified. So I need to divide. These are both divisible by 5. Then this ends up being 6 over 5. And then that's improper, but with a ratio, that's okay. So we're going to leave it as 6 over 5 because it's simplified. Number 2. In a school band, there are 6 saxophone players and 16 trumpet players. What is the ratio of saxophone players to trumpet players written as a fraction in simplest form? What is the ratio as a decimal? So again, I want to make sure that I get my words in the right order. It looks like I'm doing saxophone players over trumpet players. And then I want to match up the numbers. So there are 6 saxophone players, so 6 will go on top. Trumpet players is 16, that'll go on bottom. That can be simplified. These are both divisible by 2. So that would be 3 over 8. And then that's as much as I can simplify. So that's your ratio as a fraction in simplest form. But the second part of this problem is to write the ratio as a decimal. So this is kind of an old problem. We did this even in our first chapter. To change a fraction to a decimal, I tie bow, top in, bottom out. So 3 goes in, 8 goes out. You cannot divide 8 into 3, so you add a decimal, bring it up, and a 0. 8 will go into 30 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24. When I subtract, I get 6. Bring down another 0. 8 will go into 60 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56. When I subtract, I get 4. Bring down another 0. 8 will go into 45 times. All right, and so I'm done. So as a decimal, this ratio is 0.375. Okay, not normally how we write ratios, but it still can be converted because of ratios also being written as fractions. Number 3, the table shows the number of vegetable plants planted in Sophia's garden. Express the ratio comparing the number of tomato plants to the total number of plants as a fraction in simplest form and as a decimal. All right, so I want to make sure that I'm writing the right ratio. This looks like tomato to total. I can see from the table that there are 10 tomato plants, but there's not a total. So I need to find that myself. I'm going to add up these numbers to find the total. 5 plus 0 plus 5 is 10. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. The total plants, including the tomatoes, are 50. I still need to simplify this. 10 over 50 is divisible by 10. This becomes 1 over 5. So that would be my fraction in simplest form. I also need to write it as a decimal. So again, top in, bottom out. 5 won't divide into 1, add a decimal, add a 0. 5 will go into 10, 2 times. This becomes 0.2. Right? For exercises 4 and 5, express each rate as a unit rate. Number 4 is 585 miles in 9 hours. So unit rate, when you see the word unit rate, you want to think of UNO rate. Unit rate is for one item. And the 1 always needs to be in your denominator. So when I see 585 miles in 9 hours, I want to first write it as a ratio, as a fraction. So 585 miles over 9 hours. This is not a unit rate. The denominator is not a 1. In order to change it to a unit rate, I divide it. So just like before, top in, bottom out. 9 won't go into 5. It'll go into 58 6 times. 6 times 9 is 54. I subtract, I get 4. Bring down the 5. 9 will go into 45 5 times. Right, so then I want to rewrite this as a unit rate. So I get 65 miles for 1 hour. That's my unit rate. I can also write it kind of like this, 65 miles per hour, which just means the same thing for 1 hour, but either way is correct. All right, on number 5, I have $59.50 for 7 t-shirts. So it looks like I'm doing a unit price actually on this one. With unit price, you always want to put the cost or the price on top, and then whatever you're buying on bottom. So 7 t-shirts. Not a unit price yet because this is not a 1. So divide 7 into 59.50. You don't see that? All right, so 7 I'll go into 59 6 times. No, 7 I'll go into 59 8 times. Sorry. 8 times 7 is 56. I subtract, I get 3, bring up the decimal, and then bring down the 5. 7 I'll go into 35 5 times. I subtract, I get 0, bring down my last 0. 7 I'll go into 0 0 times. All right, so what have I found? $8.50 for 1 t-shirt. Or again, that can be written as $8.50 per shirt or per t-shirt. Okay, and both mean the same thing. It's just a different way to write it. Number 6, it took Connor 45 minutes to jog 5 miles. At this rate, how many minutes did it take him to jog each mile? So each mile is just another way to say 1 mile. So I start by writing my ratio, 45 minutes over 5 miles. And then for 1 mile, I'm going to find a unit rate. So I'm going to divide 45 by 5 would go 9 times. So what does that mean? 9 minutes for 1 mile. Or 9 minutes per mile. All right, and the next page. Number 7 says Meredith can read 420 words in 2 minutes. At this rate, how many words can she read per minute? So per minute, again, it's another way of saying 1 minute. So that's a unit rate. Oops. I'm going to start with my ratio, so 420 words over 2 minutes. And then divide it. So top in, bottom out. 2 will go into 4 twice. Bring down the 2. 2 will go into 2 once. Bring down the 0. 2 will go into 0 0 times. So that would be 210 what? Words over what? 1 minute. Or 210 words per minute. Don't forget that 1 is always in your denominator. All right, a bookstore receives a shipment of 245 books in 7 boxes. At this rate, how many books will it receive in a shipment of 19 boxes? So this one's different in that we're no longer finding a unit rate. It's not for 1 box, it's for 19 boxes. A lot of times when you see this phrase, at this rate, that's your clue to use a proportion. So that would work in this case. I'm comparing books and boxes, so I'm going to start by writing my word ratio, books over boxes. That's step 1, and then the second step is to draw 4 boxes and fill them in. So I have 245 books, that's on top, and 7 boxes, that's on bottom. And then 19 boxes is on bottom, so that goes here. And then what's left, I'm going to fill in with a variable. So any letter will work. I'm going to use X. Step 3 is to multiply the numbers that are diagonal. We call that the baseball bat. So 245 times 19. 9 times 5 is 45. Carry your 4. 9 times 4 is 36. Plus 4 is 40. 9 times 2 is 18. Plus 4 is 22. Start with a 0. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. Add these up, I get 5, 5, 6, and 4. That's not my answer though. I still have to divide by this last number, the 7 that I haven't used. We call that the baseball. So that goes outside. 7 won't go into 4, it'll go into 46 6 times. 6 times 7 is 42. And I subtract, I get 4, bring down the 5. 7 will go into 45 6 times. 6 times 7 is 42. Subtract and get 3, bring down the last 5. 7 will go into 35 5 times. All right, so this means that I have 665 what? Books in a shipment of 19 boxes. All right. I'm really sorry, guys, for sniffing and coughing. Got allergies or something. All right, number 9. There are 232 dogs in the 8 kennels at the Doogie Day Spa. At this rate, how many dogs are in 5 kennels? So again, here's your clue. The proportion is typically what you're going to use for this. I'm not doing a unit rate because it's not for 1. So proportion's a good way to go. Start with your words. Looks like I'm comparing dogs and kennels. And then I'm going to set up boxes. So 232 over 8. And let's see, 5 kennels. The 5 is going to be on bottom. So X is going to be on top. I'm going to diagonally circle the numbers across from each other. So 232, that's what I'm going to end up multiplying times 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 is 16. Carry your 1. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. And then the last thing I'm going to do is divide. 8 will go into 11 one time. When I subtract 8, I get 3. Bring down the 6. 8 will go into 36 4 times. 4 times 8 is 32. Subtract and get 4. Bring down the 0. 8 will go into 45 times. So my answer, X is equal to 145 what? It's like dogs. So 145 dogs in 5 kennels. Number 10. A knitting club used 112 feet of yarn to knit 4 blankets. At this rate, how many blankets can be made from 588 feet of yarn? So again, it's not a unit rate, so proportion is probably the way to go. I'm going to do use feet probably, or feet of yarn. For the blankets, it would be my other word, feet and blankets. Draw your boxes. There's 112 feet on top, 4 on bottom, 4 blankets, and then 588 feet, that would be on top. And then what I don't know is on bottom. Right, so diagonally, the numbers across from each other at this time are 588 and 4. 4 times 8 is 32, carry your 3. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 3 is 35, carry your 3. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 3 is 23. All right, last step is to take that number you didn't circle and divide by it. So 112 into 2,352. Dividing 112 not into 2 or 23, but 235. So if you're not sure, you can try times 2. That's 4, 2, yeah. So 2 times 112 is 224. Subtract 5 minus 4, that's 1. 3 minus 2 is 1. Bring down the 2. 112 into 112 is 1 time. So X is going to equal 21, what? 21 blankets for 588 feet of yarn. For exercises 11 and 12, use the ratio tables given to solve each problem. Jackson, on number 11, can do 15 chin-ups in 60 seconds. At this rate, how many chin-ups can he do in 108 seconds? All right, so I have, when I did ratio tables earlier, I was using scaling most of the time, or sometimes I found a unit rate. Those both work. You can still try those. But now that I know about proportions, it may be simpler to do a ratio table using proportions, at least sometimes. You can see that this is already set up as 4 boxes, right? And that question mark is like my X. So I can solve it the same way. Start by multiplying diagonally. 108 times 15. I'm going to put the 108 on top because I like my bigger number on top. 5 times 8 is 40, carry your 4. 5 times 0 is 0, plus 4. 5 times 1 is 5. Start with a 0. 1 times 8 is 8. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 1 is 1. Add these up. 0, 12, 6, 1. And then I still need to divide by 60. So 60 won't go into 1 or 16. It will go into 162 2 times. 2 times 60 is like 2 times 6, only with a 0, 120. So when I subtract, I get 2, 4, and then I bring down the 0. So 60 will go into 427 times. 7 times 60 is 420. So what do I get? I get 27 what? Chin-ups in 108 seconds. All right? So again, I could have found a unit rate and then used that to multiply it. It's probably just as simple to use your proportion and solve that way. Number 12, a customer at an arcade can get 65 tokens for $16.25. At this rate, how many tokens can the customer get for $28? So if I look at this one, scaling is not going to be easy to go from a decimal to a whole number. I could find a unit rate, and that would work. But again, it's probably just as simple to try your proportion. So if I multiply the numbers that are diagonally across from each other, I'm going to be multiplying 65 times 28. 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 6 is 48, plus 4 is 52. Start with a 0. 2 times 5 is 10, carry your 1. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13. Add these up. You get 1820. But I still need to divide by 1625. So that is kind of fun. Don't forget your rules for dividing by decimals. If there's a decimal on the outside, remember your fox and your rabbit, it needs to move over. So I need to move this one twice, which means I'm going to have to add a decimal and 2 zeros in order to be able to move it twice here. So I'm dividing by 1,625 into 182,000. Great fun. Cannot divide 1,625 into 1 or 18 or 182, but it will go into 1,820 once. I subtract. Be careful. So 10 minus 5 is 5. I borrowed from here, so I got to borrow from here to make that an 11. 11 minus 12 is 9. 7 minus 6 is 1, I believe. Yeah. And then I'm going to bring down the next 0. So 1,625 will go into 1,950 one time. Subtract again. So that becomes 10 minus 5. That's 4 minus 2. 9 minus 6 is 3. Bringing down the last 0. 1625 into 3,250 should be 2 times. If you're not sure, you're multiplying 10. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1. Yay! All right, so this becomes 2. I'm subtracting 3,250. So what have I found? That if you spend $28, you will get 112 tokens. Okay. 13. Mike found that he tapped his foot 54 times in 27 minutes. At this rate, in how many minutes does he tap his foot 210 times? Okay, at this rate, it's kind of your clue. It's not a unit rate because it's not one time, it's 210 times. So start with a proportion. Set up your words first, times over minutes. Draw your boxes. 54 times is on top, 27 is on bottom, 210 times goes on top, and then X on bottom. So finish up by multiplying diagonally 210 times 27. 7 times 0 is 0, 7 times 1 is 7, 7 times 2 is 14. Start with a 0. 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. Add these up, 0, 7, 6, 5. And then your last step is to divide. So I'm dividing 5,670 by the number 54. 54 going to 56 once. I subtract, I get 2, and I bring down the 7. 54 will not go into 27. So I need to bring down another 0, but before I do that, I have to put something above the 7. So I'm going to put a 0, and then I can bring down the 0. 54 going to 270. If you're not sure about that, you're just going to have to guess over on the side. Let's try 5. 5 times 4 is 20. 25 plus 2, 57. All right, so 5 times. So my answer for this one is 105 what? Minutes. 105 minutes, he can tap his foot 210 times. All right, so we are going to stop the video there. This is part 1 of the Pre-AP Chapter 4 test review. And then in part 2, we'll continue with the review starting with question 14. Thanks.